Welcome to Global Report, your trusted source for breaking headlines, global insights, and sharp analysis from around the world. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. The global balance of power is shifting rapidly as new alliances and emerging economies challenge the established order. For decades, the United States and its Western allies have shaped the rules of international politics, economics, and security. But today, that dominance is being questioned on multiple fronts as countries seek alternatives to the traditional Western-led system. The influence of the West, once seen as unshakable, now faces unprecedented challenges from rising powers and shifting global priorities. Enter BRICS, originally just an acronym for Brazil, Russia, India, and China, coined to describe fast-growing economies outside the West. Over time, BRICS has evolved into a powerful alliance, now expanded to include South Africa, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, the UAE, and Indonesia, forming what is now known as BRICS+. Together, BRICS+ represents nearly half the world's population, encompassing a vast diversity of cultures, languages, and histories. This coalition brings together countries from every continent, united by a shared desire for a more balanced global system. Economically, the bloc commands over a third of the global economy by purchasing power, and its share is only expected to grow as member nations continue to develop and invest in infrastructure, technology, and education. The bloc controls vast energy resources from oil and gas to critical minerals, giving it significant leverage in global markets and energy security. To further its goals, BRICS has established its own financial institutions, such as the New Development Bank, offering alternatives to the IMF and World Bank. These institutions aim to provide funding for development projects without the political strings often attached by Western lenders. The mission is clear: reform global governance, reduce reliance on the US dollar in international trade and finance, and shield member states from the impact of Western sanctions, which have become a common tool in global power struggles. For many countries, BRICS is more than just an economic bloc. It's a platform to amplify their voice on the world stage and demand a greater say in shaping the rules and institutions that govern global affairs. But BRICS isn't a monolithic anti-Western front. Its members have different histories, ambitions, and relationships with the West. Some maintain close economic and diplomatic ties with Western nations, while others are more confrontational. Countries like India, Brazil, and the UAE are focused on reforming the global system to make it more inclusive and fair, rather than overturning it entirely. Meanwhile, Russia and Iran see BRICS as a strategic tool to counterbalance US influence and push back against Western dominance. This diversity of perspectives is both a strength, bringing fresh ideas and broad representation, and a source of internal tension, as members sometimes struggle to find common ground on key issues. As BRICS grows in size and ambition, its influence on the global stage is undeniable. But so are the challenges of uniting such a varied group with sometimes competing interests and priorities. The world's center of gravity is moving, as power and influence shift toward new players and new alliances. In this new era, BRICS stands at the heart of that change, reshaping the future of global power, one step at a time. Turkey's quest to join the European Union began in the 1960s, when hopes for a shared European future ran high. Turkish leaders envisioned their country as a bridge between East and West, eager to modernize and integrate with Europe's economic and political systems. The early years were filled with optimism, as both sides signed agreements and exchanged promises of partnership. Over the decades, Turkey undertook sweeping reforms, modernizing its laws, economy, and institutions to meet EU standards. Negotiations ebbed and flowed, with each round bringing new hopes and fresh challenges. Despite early optimism, the process stalled, blocked by political disputes, cultural concerns, and the Cyprus issue. The dream of full membership began to fade as obstacles mounted, and trust between Ankara and Brussels eroded. Many Turks saw shifting EU demands as a rejection of their identity, eroding public support for membership. Frustration grew on the streets, and the once popular idea of joining the EU lost its shine for many citizens. Under President Erdogan, skepticism grew, and by 2025, accession talks were effectively dead. The government's rhetoric shifted, reflecting a new era of caution and distance from Brussels. The relationship became transactional, focused on migration and security, not shared destiny. Cooperation was limited to practical matters, with little talk of deeper integration or common values. This prolonged limbo forced Turkey to reconsider its Western focus. The sense of belonging to Europe faded, replaced by a search for new directions and opportunities. With the EU door closed, Ankara began searching for new partners and platforms. Turkish leaders looked beyond Europe, exploring alliances that promised respect and influence on the global stage. The allure of BRICS, a rising bloc promising influence and respect, became increasingly attractive. Turkey saw in BRICS a chance to redefine its role and assert its interests in a changing world. Turkey's strategic vacuum set the stage for a dramatic pivot eastward, opening a new chapter in its foreign policy and reshaping its place in the global order. With Europe's door closed, Turkey is pivoting east, not abandoning the West, but diversifying its options. BRICS offers access to major markets, investment, and energy partnerships, without the EU's strict political conditions. For Erdogan, BRICS is a club where Turkey can be a major player, not a perpetual candidate. The bloc's flexible cooperation model is appealing, especially as Turkey faces EU criticism on democracy and rights. Joining BRICS aligns with Ankara's ambition for a more autonomous global role in a multipolar world. But as a NATO member, Turkey faces a tough balancing act between old allies and new partners. The journey toward BRICS is a bold re-evaluation of Turkey's place in the world. Hungary, under Viktor Orban, has become the EU's internal dissident, clashing with Brussels over democracy, migration, and sovereignty. Orban's illiberal democracy challenges the EU's liberal consensus, often blocking collective decisions and resisting federalist ambitions. Hungary's reliance on Russian energy and close ties with China set it apart from other EU states. The government frames its defiance as patriotic, prioritizing national interests over EU directives. This stance has led to frozen EU funds and growing isolation within the bloc. Hungary's search for partners who don't criticize its policies has driven it toward Eastern powers. Interest in BRICS is a logical extension of this Eastern opening policy. For Budapest, BRICS offers a way to assert strategic autonomy and challenge Brussels' authority. Hungary's Eastern opening strategy aims to diversify its economic and diplomatic ties beyond the West. The country has become a hub for Chinese investment and maintains pragmatic relations with Russia, even amid EU sanctions. Exploring BRICS is a natural next step, promising access to new markets and alternative financing. Politically, it signals Hungary's sovereign foreign policy and warns Brussels that Budapest has options. But this gamble risks deepening Hungary's isolation within the EU and NATO, and could trigger punitive measures. The question: can Hungary balance its Western commitments with closer ties to BRICS? Orban's government believes it can, but the risks are high. Hungary's future may hinge on how it navigates this delicate balancing act. Turkey's interest in joining BRICS is making headlines, serving as both a propaganda win for Ankara and a diplomatic challenge for the bloc itself. Turkey's overtures signal its desire to diversify alliances beyond the West, but this move is far from straightforward. Russia, eager to weaken NATO's cohesion, openly supports Turkish membership. Moscow sees Ankara's interest as a way to drive a wedge between NATO allies. However, BRICS operates on consensus, and every member has a veto over new admissions, making the process complicated. India stands firmly against Turkey's bid, pointing to Ankara's close ties with Pakistan and recent military tensions in the region. For New Delhi, these issues are not just diplomatic hurdles, they're red lines. China, too, is cautious. Beijing is wary of admitting a NATO member whose loyalties may be divided, especially as global power dynamics shift. The risk of internal discord within BRICS is a real concern for Chinese leadership. At the 2024 summit, Turkey was offered only partner status, not full membership, a compromise Ankara ultimately rejected. This outcome highlights the careful balancing act BRICS must perform as it considers expansion. These internal divisions reveal that BRICS is not simply an anti-Western club. Instead, it's a complex web of competing interests, national priorities, and strategic calculations. Aspiring members must do more than just express interest. They must convince existing powers that they bring value and won't upset the delicate balance within the group. For countries like Turkey and Hungary, disillusionment with the West is only the beginning. They must also navigate the intricate geopolitics and internal rivalries that define BRICS itself. The welcome mat may be out, but the conditions for entry are strict, and the path to full membership is anything but guaranteed. Turkey's and Hungary's BRICS flirtations have alarmed Brussels and Washington. For the EU, these moves threaten unity and raise doubts about the bloc's future appeal. Brussels warns that EU candidacy is incompatible with BRICS membership, but its leverage over Turkey is fading. Washington, under President Trump, has taken a hard line, threatening tariffs on countries aligning with BRICS. For Turkey, this could mean severe economic consequences. For Hungary, further isolation within the West. The message: align with BRICS at your peril. Both countries now face a high-stakes dilemma: pursue new opportunities or risk Western retaliation. The strategic calculations have never been more complex. Turkey's and Hungary's BRICS ambitions mark a turning point for Europe. The continent's strategic orientation is no longer exclusively westward. BRICS offers a risky but real alternative. If Turkey joins BRICS, NATO's posture in the Black Sea and Eastern Mediterranean could be upended. Hungary's pivot, even short of full membership, challenges EU cohesion and sets a precedent for others. The EU could fracture into competing factions, paralyzing its global influence. Europe faces a choice: enforce unity through pressure, or adapt to a multipolar reality. The West must address the frustrations driving countries eastward, or risk losing them. The future of European geopolitics depends on how Brussels and Washington respond. Turkey's and Hungary's BRICS ambitions reflect the shifting tectonics of global power. BRICS offers economic opportunity and a platform for greater influence, but the risks are immense. Turkey faces opposition from India and threats from the US. Hungary risks deeper isolation in the EU. Both are walking a tightrope, seeking rewards without alienating the West. For the EU and US, this is a wake-up call. Loyalty can't be demanded, it must be earned. The challenge is to reform and reinvigorate the Western model, making it attractive once again. The choices made now will shape Europe's role in a multipolar world. The outcome of this balancing act will define the continent's future for decades to come.